Hey, what makes a good boyfriend?
Probably like a boyfriend who invites you to come on his podcast.
Really?
Allegedly.
Welcome to another episode of Allegedly Podcast. I'm Lucas, and today I'm joined by my beautiful girlfriend, Kelsey
Hello.
Gregorio. She's very nervous, and so this is going to be a lot of fun. Today's topic, a topic I've been wanting to talk about, and I feel like some people might find it weird that I want to talk about. We're going to talk about relationships today. Kelsey, how do you feel about that?
I'm so excited. It's exactly what I didn't want to talk about.
Exactly. So me and Kelsey have been dating now for three months, three,
More or less.
more or less 3 4 months, and our relationship's going good. I very much care for Kelsey. Kelsey very much cares for me. But I thought we could sit down and talk about what we've learned through past relationships and through dating. Because I feel like it's good to get to know someone and kind of what they've been through. So, Kelsey, let's start it off.
Okay.
Let me get in my book here because I obviously, even though we just talked about it, but um, what have you learned from dating over the years? So I know we kind of talked about it earlier, but when do you consider yourself you first started dating? Let's go with that.
Me and I had my first pretend boyfriend in middle school. I had my friend ask him out for me, and he had his friend break up with me, and we never spoke in person besides that. But I would say high school is probably when I actually had my first boyfriend that we actually like went out on dates and hung out outside of school, but we were 14, so our parents had to drive us.
Gotcha.
And then a few in high school, none in college, one in adulthood, and now here we are.
And what would you say you learned over the year? Obviously, when you go from like a younger age to a more mature age, dating becomes a little bit just more formal, I guess. Where obviously your pretend boyfriend very very informal, but as you get older, it gets more formal and more. How do I want to say? Just it's more of a either an idea that someone has in their head of dating to like what reality actually is.
Sure, it's more serious. I don't know. I think for me, it's kind of gone in waves. In high school, I probably thought the dating I was doing was pretty serious. In college, I tried to start dating, then I realized that was not my priority at the time, so I stopped because I was working and going to school and having fun with my friends. So I decided dating was not a priority. So that was really just learning more about myself. After college, I wanted to move around and travel, so I did that. And then it was kind of after coming back to Michigan and hanging out there that I decided to start dating for fun. And then after a little bit of that, I was like, okay, no, now I want something more serious.
Okay.
So it's kind of just about what I was looking for changed and taught me about my priorities.
Gotcha. For me, I would have to say my first real relationship because, like you said, I had a couple, I would say, informal relationships, middle school, and then like one high school. But my first real girlfriend, I would say, I dated like just after I got out of high school, and that's when I started learning things about myself and about dating in general, and just how it works out. And since then, I've had four real relationships. Hold on. Yeah, four before us, and just again, I've learned a lot, and it's been very interesting to go through again stages of life and the experiences you have and what you learn from those, and how what you get in your mind as a what you consider a genuine or maybe not perfect relationship, but what you think you want in a relationship. And I would say over the years, for me it has changed a bit, but at the same time it kind of remains the same, where it's like you have subtle things where you're like, I think I could look past that, or I could do with that. Just that sometimes you get in your head of your standards, and some people I feel have maybe not just some. I feel like some people have standards that are way too high, and it comes down to where they just want, I think, more physical attributes and less than personality. Where I feel the older you get, it does become where if I can mesh with this person personality wise, or we just are very similar, which I think we are. That's me. I think our personalities just mesh very well together, and that's why I very enjoy our time together. So I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yes, of course.
In both senses of how I'm talking.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who do have really, I don't know if I would even say high, but specific physical standards. But they're allowed to. It
Yeah.
really limits who they might match with and feel attracted to. But, people can look for what they want. They just have to realize that it might be unrealistic for them to find that.
Gotcha. Well, with that said, since obviously we've had years to date and kind of figure out what we want in a person, how have your, I shouldn't say standards have changed over time, even though my father says you've lowered your standards for me.
Yeah, almost none.
What do you think, what in your mind has changed when you're looking for when you were looking for someone to date?
I don't know that things have changed that much for me. I think the important things, like you said, have kind of remained consistent. Like I've always wanted someone who's close with their family, someone who likes to have fun and do fun things and try new things. One thing that changed for me that I didn't realize was important when I started dating was someone who has friends, which sounds silly, but I dated someone who didn't have any friends, and I realized that was not what I was looking for. Someone who likes dogs. And one thing that was harder than I thought it would be was to find someone to date who likes sports, because there are apparently a lot of late 20, early 30-year-old men who aren't interested at all in sports, which I thought was really weird, but I realized was more important to me than I thought it was when guys I was meeting online had no interest in watching any sporting events.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can relate to a couple of those. At least the friends part. I can relate to that part, because I can tell you that in the past I've dated people who they either didn't have friends, or their standards for what a friend was so high that one friend would spend time with someone else, and then that person wouldn't be their friend anymore. And I just blew my mind, where I'm like, you obviously know, I know so many people through college, high school, military, I know so many people, and I consider them all my friends, and mostly my family too, because I love them very much. I care for everyone that in my family. I care for everyone that I know, especially if I'm close with. I have so many friends. You know that.
You have a lot of
friends.
friends.
It is very important that, like, when it comes to dating, I do want to spend time with the person I'm dating, but at the same time, I want them to have their own life. I want them to have their own friends, where it's like, you don't have to be with me every day of our life. We don't have to be right next to each other. I like to spend time with you, but hey, could you go spend some time with your friends or family just to go have some of your own genuine fun? I feel like it's a lot more pressure when it's like, I don't have any friends, you are my friend, and you're like, okay.
Right. Well, that is what made me realize it was the person I was dating didn't have friends. So like you said, he wanted to spend all the time together. Plus, he was upset when I would go spend time with my friends without him, which, like you said, is important to both of us. I do like to have my separate time with my people.
Yep. And that's fine. I think that's great. Along with that, being close with family, I think, is definitely very important, because I feel I have seen people who have maybe they're relatively close with their family, but their family, it feels like, is just drama, and you just don't. it's hard to be like, well, they're close with their family, but their family's just drama, and it's just
Yeah.
it's a little more just it's hard to explain. It's just
Close with your family is a hard one too, because
Yeah.
I do think it's important to me, but I recognize that people can't choose their family. So like
Yeah.
some people are born into not great families,
Yeah.
and I don't fault those people for not being close. It's just I'm very close with my family, so
Yeah.
I like that in a partner.
Absolutely. I get that. That's awesome. But learn I know I again going with friends, just learning when I wanted to date someone, I want to have someone that has I don't want them to have their own life, but kind of like I have my section of life, you have your section, we have our section together. It's because I feel like when someone doesn't have their own section of their own life, of what's going on, what they're doing, it's a lot more, again, put on you, where it's like, oh, now you gotta, they're trying to fill that gap with you, and that's, again, a lot of pressure, and you're like, I already have my own life to live, so, I don't know. But moving away from that, what do you think makes a good relationship in your mind? And even not, maybe not in your mind as well or necessary, but some key things that you believe need to be in a relationship to make it good and or long lasting.
You know this, I think there needs to be a fair amount of banter and roasting. I love a bit. There needs to be lots of
Yes.
joking, lots of committing to the bit.
For anyone who hasn't met Kelsey, Kelsey does commit to the bit. She does. She's very good at that.
I love a joke. I think that's important. I think I would have a really hard time being with someone who was not open to receiving sarcasm or comments, which can sometimes be mean, and I recognize that.
Yeah.
But I think that is important. I think, like we talked about already, having like kind of our separate stuff going on and then having the stuff that overlaps. I think getting along with each other's friends and family is important. Making sure that like we mesh into each other's circles that have already been developed. I'd say having some shared hobbies is usually important, but I think it's important to have
Or-
not shared hobbies
Or
too.
yeah. Or be open to newer hobbies, I guess.
Yes, like you being open to watching Harry Potter.
I didn't say I didn't like Harry Potter. I said I watched Harry Potter as far as I felt I needed to.
Yeah.
Also, disclaimer, when Kelsey talks about sarcasm, she's not looking for critiques on this podcast right now.
No, that's true. I'm not open to critiques.
She's
I only said constructive compliments.
to constructive compliments.
Yes,
Exactly.
no critiques.
I agree. I think one that you didn't say, but I feel like is important, communication.
Yeah.
I know communication's very, very, very important. I know I'm not always the greatest at that, or my aura will say something else when me not saying something might send a different message than I want to send, and
That's true.
that's on me, because I feel like in life, even when it comes to whether this podcast or just in life, I am my harshest critic, and a lot of times when I get critiqued by someone, I'm just disappointed in myself, even though I may not have seen that whatever I was doing or what I wasn't doing as a problem, and then when someone brings it up as a problem, I'm just like, well, why didn't I fix that earlier?
Yes.
But yeah, no, all
No,
those
you're right though. Communication is a big one.
communication, very having fun,
Yes.
not taking life too seriously. That's kind of how I put it. Like life is, you have to take it seriously at times, but for the most part, I can tell you when I go to work, majority of the time, I am saying and doing some of the most childish stuff you've ever.
Me too.
It's just that's what makes life worth living. Like you're going to work to make money, because obviously you've put in a lot more time and effort into
I'm not going to work to make money.
Yeah, Kelsey's not going to work to make money. She's going to
work
make,
because I like it.
because she loves helping children. And Kelsey, the best child life specialists in Michigan. She's her words, not mine.
No.
Yes, she said it. She said it, and yeah, she believes it. Kelsey's the best, but communication,
Yeah.
and be not taking life too seriously.
And making compromises sometimes. I
Yeah.
think that ties back to communication because our communication styles are very different.
Yeah.
But I think we've like hit a groove. We've found something that works.
Yep. And Kelsey's gonna play disc golf because she loves it so
No.
much.
That is not something I will compromise on. I'm not playing disc golf.
Kelsey, yeah, Kelsey hates disc golf. We don't really know why she
There's
thinks
no
it's-
rationale.
There's no rationale. That before we get to the last segment, I want to say what are some of your, other than disc golf? I think
Like
we
my
have
icks?
Yeah, what are your red flags or icks? Just for everyone out there, just so we can prove that I don't, just because I play disc golf, I don't. That's the only red flag I have, but I might have more.
I mean, none of the icks are important, right? They're just like little stupid things. But like sandals,
Hey, no one can see my feet, so
Yeah.
we don't look at them.
I don't love sandals on men. I don't love tank tops on men. Which I feel like because you've bought a couple of those sleeveless hoodies.
Those aren't tank tops though.
They're basically tank
They're
tops.
not tank tops though.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't love disc golf. I don't particularly want to date someone who's a Michigan fan. Nothing
Okay,
against the
check.
University of Michigan, obviously.
No, everything
Still cut me
against
my
them.
paychecks, but I would rather not deal with that. What else? My friends could probably tell you a lot more of
Probably.
them. I can't think of any more off the top of my head.
I don't know. I was gonna say, just so you know, you don't have any red flags for me. I was gonna
None?
say, not that I can think of.
Okay.
But yeah, you're 10 out of 10, Kelsey.
Yes, thank you.
Kelsey was born on October 10th, so there you go. She's a 10 out of 10.
Oldest joke in the book.
Oldest. Well, I hadn't heard that joke until
Well, it's
Oh,
not
like a
your
month-
birthday.
Well, yeah, it's not my birthday, but I did hear that joke a month or two ago, and I was like, it's like funny. Kelsey was born on the 10th, but no. I think again, probably we already talked about it, but not having friends or only having like a few friends, I feel like that's a very. I get like when you move around or. Not everyone still keeps in contact with friends from high school. I obviously do. I still talk to a lot of people from college. I obviously still work with people in the military. So I just have a wide net of people I know and friends. And I know not everyone has that, but at the same time, not having friends or having a social circle or social outlet is definitely a big thing. Not having any hobbies kind of blows my mind. Because I know you were talking about guys not liking sports. I cannot think of a friend that I have in my immediate range that's okay, maybe one. I have one high school buddy who's just not into sports.
Yeah.
Where he's
You'd be
an
surprised.
outdoorsman though. That's the thing. He likes hiking, he likes
Sure.
going, but he's not a sports guy. But for the most part, most of the guys I know who are in a secure job field, they are outside of that, they do love sports. Because I taught every year for the draft, which was a couple weeks ago, I always call at least one or two of my friends and be like, hey, what do you think how do you think your team did? But
And this year you recorded it.
this year I recorded a couple of them. Not on draft day, but that would have been funny too. But no, just being able to be social, because I understand where there are days where I really want to be social, and then there are days where it's like I just want to stay in and not do anything. So being able to be social, I think, is also a very important thing. I'm also one of those people who, where if I've been sitting around and there's nothing going on, it's like being spontaneous. I like being spontaneous too.
Sure.
Where, because I know when we've gone out on dates and we were like, let's go do this one thing, and then we're done, and it's like, okay, well, let's go do something else now. We can't just. I don't want the date to be over. Or I want to keep doing and going out and doing different things. Just being spontaneous, I think, is definitely a big thing. Some people. But again, communication, not being able to communicate or hiding feelings is definitely one of those. And obviously you won't know that until maybe later that someone felt a different way. Because I will say, I went on a date with a girl who we had dinner, and after the dinner was over, she told me, oh, this isn't going to work out, blocked me. immediately. And I was like, and at the time I was like, that was really dumb. But I'm like, well,
Yeah, why not though?
Well, I'm like, but then I'm like, now I think about it, I'm like, well, I guess it kind of made sense at the same
Yeah.
time, where it was like, okay, well, I guess
Better than stringing you along if she knew she wasn't interested.
yeah, more, yeah. But I don't know. Okay, so for this this segment, me and Kelsey are going to be doing 2 truths and a lie. We're going to see if, again, we've only been dating for a couple months, so
Yep.
hopefully, I think it's going to be easier for her to find mine than me to find hers, but we're going to
A
find
couple
out.
of things I wrote down, I feel like I've already told you, so it'll just be about whether or not you remember.
Yeah, this will be great.
Yeah.
So do you want ladies go first?
I'll do one first, yeah.
Okay.
Just do like one at a time.
Yep, we can just go
Are
back
we
and
keeping
forth.
track of a winner?
We can. I can mark it on my sheet.
That's all right. Okay. We'll start with like a boring one. Okay.
Okay, boring one.
So, I feel like don't look at me because I have tells. I'm bad at lying.
Okay,
Okay.
don't look at Kelsey.
I've broken a bone, I've had stitches, and I've gone under anesthesia.
I feel like we haven't talked. I feel like you haven't broken a bone. I swear we haven't talked about that. Because I know. I'm going to say you haven't broken a bone.
That's correct.
Yes.
Good one.
Yeah. Because I was like, I know you. For also people who don't know, Kelsey was a competitive dancer for a
Sure.
long time.
Yes.
And I was about to say, you've talked about a lot, you've never talked about breaking a bone.
No, I haven't ever like technically broken a bone. I've probably broken a couple toes or something, but I've had stitches 4 times,
Oh, no.
and then I've been under anesthesia once. So, got stitches in my toe when I cut it open on the cement playing capture the flag when I was 7. I got stitches in my forehead when I was walking and fell down. I was only like 1.5, so was still working on the walking. Cut my forehead open. You can't really see, but I have a scar right in the middle of my forehead. I cut my finger open with a knife. I was sharpening a pencil in the 6th grade, trying to finish a project before I went to school, and sliced my finger open. Had to go to the hospital, and then my dad drove me straight to school to turn in the project that had blood on it. And then I got stitches on my gums. I had to have some oral surgery.
Yep.
There you go, 4 times.
4 times. Wait, when did you get... You said you got anesthesia for surgery. What was that for? Was that for the...
No, that was for a colonoscopy
Oh, gotcha.
and endoscopy. Very exciting.
Very exciting.
What every 23-year-old wants to do. Have a colonoscopy.
Gotcha. Okay, my turn.
Yes, your turn.
So I have a couple. So here we go.
Pick one.
We'll do this one. So these all start with in high school.
Every category?
No,
Just
no,
this
no,
one?
no, no,
This
just this
one.
one.
Okay.
This one. So all these start with in high school. My talent was gobbling like a turkey. My catchphrase was "We drop bombs." My favorite class was study hall.
Those all feel like they could be true. My high school didn't have a study hall, so that one flags a little bit to me.
You are allowed to ask questions if you want to try to get.
No, I think that's cheating.
Okay.
I'm not going to let you ask questions, so I won't do that.
Okay. Fair enough.
Oh, I'm afraid for the first one to be true because that means you're going to demonstrate gobbling like a turkey.
No, not on these mics.
I'm going to say the last one is not true, the study hall one.
You are correct.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I would say my favorite class I ever took, I took a psychology class in high school, and it was the most fun ever. But then future me took 2 psychology classes in college. Hated both of them.
Got a little more
it wasn't-
scientific in college.
Yeah, it got
Yeah.
bad. But no, yeah, no. So, yeah, I used to gobble like a turkey.
Sure.
I don't know why. One day I did it, and then people would just ask me to do it. I don't know if they were probably making fun of me, but at the same time, I was like, I don't know. I took it kind of seriously when I did it. So
so
and
they
then,
were definitely making fun of
and
you.
then at the back of the bus after a football game, I remember I just look over the bench and the guy in front of me. I'm like, we drop bombs. And so for the longest time, that's what people remember me and it's funny because I found my
I was gonna say, you have that written on like a shirt or something, right?
my senior like spirit shirt. It says bomb dropper on the back.
Yeah,
So
I think you told
I
me
like
about
how
that.
I looked at when I found that shirt. I'm like, I totally forgot about that. So that was really blast from the past right there. I thought that was funny.
Okay. I do kind of remember us talking about that. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're tied, 1-1. Let's see. I'll do my next one. Okay, this one's about jobs I did in college.
Mm-hmm.
I came up with this the other day when we were on the phone. So I worked at a retail store, I worked at a movie theater restaurant, and I worked at a gym.
Movie theater restaurant. Like a restaurant in the mall where there was a movie theater. I know I'm not allowed to ask questions. Just there.
Yeah, I'm not
there needs to
answering
be
questions.
there needs to be some questions there. I feel like that's uberly specific, so that's gotta be true. I don't. You worked retail. That's a lie.
That one's a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's a lie.
I was about to say, I really was about to say gym, but I'm like, no.
No, I worked at Lifetime Fitness in college, at the child care center.
Okay, and then can you break
Movie
down
theater restaurant. Yeah, it was called Studio Movie Grill. It was in downtown Columbus. It's basically like a movie theater where you have a button at your seat that you call a server to, and you order food, and then you bring food in and out during the movie. The people who are there to just watch the movie and not order food get really pissed off about it. And it was a horrible job. I made like $2 an hour. I didn't make any money in tips. I had to pay to park in a really sketchy parking garage. I didn't leave till 3 a.m. It was a horrible job.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I believe that. That's crazy though. That's why when you said, because I've been, not to get too sidetracked, I've been to a mall where they had a movie theater, but it was a bar. Like it was a bar movie theater.
Yeah.
Like you could drink and then a movie starting, then you go into.
This was you straight up order the food from your seats. Now a lot of movie theaters you can order food at like the desk and they bring it to your seats, but this was like you order and everything from your seats.
Was it like comfy reclining chairs too, or is it just regular?
No, this
movie
was like
theaters?
before movie theaters had comfy
okay.
reclining chairs.
Okay.
I'm old, Lucas. This is when I was in college.
I went to collage too.
Yes,
you're a year younger than we're in
the
the
same
same
age.
year,
We're the same
but
age.
I'm a couple months older.
Yes.
Not that anyone would know.
But in college, I also worked at the hospital, and then I also worked at a dance studio. But I thought you'd know both of those ones, so I didn't do those ones.
Fair enough. Okay. As an adult, I want to own a bar. When I was a teenager, I wanted to race dirt track cars, and when I was a child, I wanted to be a football player.
Oh, those could all also be true. I could definitely see you owning a bar. I could also see you wanting to do dirt track racing, but I'm gonna say that one's the lie.
Wait, which one? When I was a teenager.
Yeah.
No, that's true. Because right around that time was my stepdad had been racing dirt track for a bit, and if you want to hear more about that, there's an episode about that, and one of my favorite episodes that I've done. But no, that was around the time we didn't have, as I always told my stepdad, I'm like, I want to race dirt track. Well, we didn't have the money. We didn't have obviously anything that we could have done it, but I was all about it when I was a teenager. And when I was a little kid, I loved football. I'm like, I want to be a football player. I had like a little, I think, sticky note. We did like, it wasn't a career day, but it was just like what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, I want to be a football player.
So you don't want to own a bar?
No. Honestly, I have driven by a bunch of abandoned buildings, like non-use buildings close to my hometown and or places, and I always look and I'm like, that'd be a great place for a go-kart track. Like I rather spend more money to make like build an awesome go-kart track than to own a bar.
Would
Like,
the go-kart track serve alcohol?
maybe.
Okay,
But
then it's a bar.
but we're focusing on the go-kart track first. We're
Okay.
not a bar. If anything, we're a go-kart track that has a bar.
I feel like you'd be good at owning a bar.
Probably. I don't know. I feel like a lot goes into it. And
Yeah.
I've also watched Bar Rescue too much to where it's like,
Sure.
I don't want to be in that much debt.
Yeah.
Where you got to kind of monitor it pretty closely.
Pretty sure getting into the go-kart industry would also
Well, you
bring
got
on some debt.
Well, yeah, but I know. Again, don't want to go too in depth, but they do have electric carts now. So,
Yes.
But again, obviously, you're gonna save on fuel at least, and I feel the mechanics for it would be a little easier to fix. But that's just me. That's just my thinking. I'd rather own a go-kart track than a bar. That's just
Okay.
me, because I very much enjoy go-kart tracks.
Yes, I know.
I get to race the go-karts for free.
Yes, we know you like go-karts. Okay. This one's a little bit more boring, so I'm going to get it out of the way now. Are you ready?
Yep.
My mom and I share a middle name, my aunt and I share a middle name, and my grandma and I share a middle name. And 90% of the world, it's a really common middle name. But
Yeah. I'm gonna go with my instinct immediately. I don't think Kathy would give you the same middle name as her. Mm-hmm. So you and your mom do not share a middle name.
incorrect.
Oh.
My mom and I do share a middle name, which means we have the same initials.
Okay. So wait, what? Who don't you share a middle name with?
My grandma.
Oh, that just would make sense to me. I don't know. It's just where it's like your mom doesn't have the same middle name, but then
Yeah.
she would give you your grandmother's middle name.
My actual name kind of came from my grandma's middle name. Her middle name's Chelsea. Mm-hmm. So my parents toyed with that being my name, and my grandma said absolutely not because she doesn't like it. So then that transformed to Chelsea, which transformed to Kelsey. So, but no, my paternal aunt, so my dad's sister and my mom both have the middle name of Elizabeth, and I also do. So,
Okay, awesome.
yes,
I learned something today.
there you go.
Okay, all these start with in college.
Okay.
I joined a club on campus to be on the radio. I joined a club sport to prove a point. And I joined a fraternity to play intramural sports.
Do you have to be in a fraternity to play intramural sports? That doesn't
No.
sound right.
Technically, no. You don't have to.
Well, I know that you did broadcasting stuff, but I don't know if that was through a club or if that was through your classes. Mm-hmm. Will you read them again?
I joined a club on campus to be on the radio. I joined a club sport to prove a point, and I joined a fraternity to play intramural sports.
See, you would definitely join something to prove a point. It's okay, so would I. I'm going to say the first one's not true.
I joined a club on campus to be on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I knew some people in my class that had a radio show, and so a lot of times I would go and be on their show. I think
Yeah.
I was on it like 2 or 3 times.
But
It
you
was a
didn't
lot.
have to join a club.
No, I didn't have to join the club. They were just like, "Yeah, you can come in." I'm like, "Yes." So,
I'm so
I
good.
got to be on BG Public Radio a few times. So that was fun.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
I
was
did
gonna
it.
say we got. Yep. We're right now. So we've done 3 each. We're gonna do 2. Both do 2 more. 2 more, and then. So right now we're tied at 2. Just so you know.
Okay. What's the prize for the winner?
Crisp high five.
No. Okay. never mind. We don't need to keep
I can
score.
high five myself then.
Okay, you ready?
Uh-huh.
I've been skydiving, I've been swimming with sharks, and I've flown a plane.
For some reason, right off the bat, I just want to say you haven't flown a plane, but for some reason, I want to say you said something about that. You went skydiving. That's a lie.
It was a trick. None of them are lies. They're all true. I did all those things.
You did all those
I had a
things.
really hard time coming up with a third thing that was like the same caliber that I hadn't done. Because I was thinking like flown a plane, zip lining, whatever, but I've done all that stuff. So I've done all those things. It was a trap. I don't know that you need to be penalized for that, but
Okay.
I did
That's
go
fair.
skydiving. I don't know that I would do it again.
I would.
It was terrifying.
I bet you're jumping out of a plane. Yeah.
It was more of the person you're attached to
Yeah,
jumping
that's it.
out of the plane. I definitely did not
Not
jump.
jump out.
No.
Just hung on to him. Just been like,
Yep, I was freaking
pull
out.
the chute. Pull the chute.
Swimming with sharks was cool. I did that in Hawaii. It was with nice sharks, not with mean sharks. So it wasn't like in a cage or anything.
Nurse sharks. Like,
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
about to say, but I bet it was nurse sharks.
Nurse sharks, and there was another kind too that were just kind of like swimming right underneath us.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty cool. And then I did fly a plane, one of the little ones,
Cool.
with assistance, obviously,
With
not by myself.
okay. All these have started with I've traveled to.
Oh, okay,
I've traveled to Lincoln, Nebraska.
sure.
I've traveled to Helsinki, Finland, and I've traveled to Dublin, Ireland. And when I say I traveled, I mean I visited.
Yes,
Like,
not just like you drove
Not
through.
just like, oh, hey, look, check it out. What up? And then left. Yeah, no.
I know we've talked about this a decent amount, but I don't know if the specific cities are meant to throw me off. So
I was just trying to be more specific.
I don't think you've been to Dublin.
That's correct. I had a layover in Dublin but no, Helsinki, Finland. I went there on my I can't even remember what birthday it was. It was like my 23rd birthday or something like that.
Okay.
Went there, spent the weekend with some friends. That was a lot of fun. And then went to a wedding in Lincoln, Nebraska, and got to check out that city for a weekend. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just landed in Dublin, then took back off.
Ireland is one of my favorite places that I've been.
I was about
so
to
you
say
should go
that.
there.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think we talked about. 'Cause,
Yeah.
Yeah, you went to Ireland, so. Okay, what's your last one that hopefully is two truths and a lie?
It is. One of them's a lie. And this is something I think we've talked about, so it's a little bit of a test. Mm-hmm. Okay. I've lived in Lake Tahoe, I've lived in Chicago, and I've lived in Kansas City.
You haven't lived in Chicago.
No, correct. I have not lived in
There,
Chicago.
see, I knew that one. I was like, that was pretty easy.
I wasn't sure if you knew I lived in
No,
Kansas City.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I remember you talking about Lake Tahoe. I thought you talked about going somewhere when you were in Kansas City. I just remember you not talking about Chicago.
Yeah, no,
I feel like you've never talked to.
But it's so close. I figured it was a good.
Yeah, that was good.
Lots of people from Michigan moved to Chicago.
Okay. Okay. I have two more, but I'm gonna do one of them. Because technically one of these I could technically fudge into all three of them are true. So I'll go with the other one that does
Okay.
have a lie. Okay. If I had three wishes, here would be my three wishes.
Okay.
I wish for my dream house. I wish for a teleportation machine. I wish for an all-inclusive cruise.
Okay, well, I feel like it can't be the last one. You could already buy that.
What?
A cruise?
All-inclusive, everything?
Yeah, people go on those all the time.
Yeah, but a wish, it would be free.
Okay, well, a house is a lot more expensive than a cruise.
Well, what? So you're going.
So I'm
with
saying the
last-
cruise is a lie.
Yeah, I hate cruises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a stupid use of your wish.
Whatever.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was trying to think of vacations, and I'm like,
Okay, well, a
I would-
teleportation device and a cruise? What?
Well, I don't.
People go on cruises every day.
Well, I don't know. I was
The
trying
genie
to be.
would laugh at you.
Well, do you want to hear the one that was all truths that I could technically fudge it up?
Yeah.
I did jobs, but I feel like I've told you about most of my jobs. It was I once worked as a janitor. I once worked as a hearse driver, and I once worked as an exotic animal handler.
Okay, I don't think I'm familiar with that last one.
So, and that's why I can kind of fudge it. So when I was in tech school, I volunteered to do volunteer work, and we set up for this Cajun festival down in Texas. And at one point, I got volunteered for a job where I got to hold a red boa constrictor. They're just like, they put it on me and they're like, here, hold this snake. People are going to pay to get pictures taken with it. When they come up, you just put it on them. They get the picture taken, you take it off, and then I held a snake.
So you were like the snake's assistant.
It's an exotic animal. I was
That's
handling
true.
it. So
Yes.
I got to hold a red boa constrictor for like 3 hours. That was my job. And it was cool. It was I just recently found those pictures of me holding it, and it was one of the only times where I'd be like, that snake was the coolest snake ever, because all it would do is just find a warm spot in my back and she'd just chill right there, and it was the most fun ever. But no, well, I think we know each other decently well. I felt like we both did pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like we did a good job.
Good job. Well, I hope you've enjoyed listening to me and Kelsey banter back and forth. But before we can end the episode, Kelsey, you know what we got to do.
The question jar.
Question jar. And since this is your first time, you get to pick a question out of the question jar.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You got a name on it, or is it just a question?
It has a name.
Ooh, whose name do we got?
That's a great one.
Oh, it's Jackson. Jackson, one of my close friends from BG who haven't video gamed with in a while, but Jackson, congratulations, your question has been picked. What is your favorite conspiracy theory or unsolved mystery? That's a good one.
I have one right off the bat. I have a go-to favorite conspiracy theory. It is that Avril Lavigne has been replaced and the real Avril Lavigne died. And it's obviously very silly and probably not true. But if you look into it, there's actually a lot of supporting evidence that Avril Lavigne, as we knew her as kids, died and they replaced her with like a body double. Because her voice pitch is different. Her handwriting is different. She looks similar, but different enough that it could be true. And I'm sure it's not, but it is my favorite conspiracy theory.
Interesting. I like to watch a lot of YouTube short videos that talk about conspiracy theories and stuff like that.
Yes, you love your videos.
I think my favorite recent one, because I could obviously talk about aliens. I could talk about different stuff like that.
Aliens are for real.
Yeah, I know aliens are for real. They've said that UFOs are real. So
yeah.
But conspiracy theory, I want to go with that NASA has contained a megalodon in the ocean, because there was a video. Well, there have been multiple videos about a guy who went diving in the ocean and found this cage, and it said it was property of NASA, and it was just in off the shores of like Massachusetts or something. And he said he saw a giant shark inside the cage, and so I don't know. It was just a very interesting one, and I guess this guy was pretty reputable kind of source where, like, why would he lie about this? He has nothing to gain from it.
Fun.
So, I don't know.
Sometimes people lie for fun.
Yeah,
What would NASA's involvement be in, like, aquatics?
Well,
why would that fall to NASA?
Well, because they have stopped, like, exploring outer space. Well, all they do is kind of launch probes now. Now they're trying to investigate, like, the bottom of the ocean, I guess. I don't really know why they would capture a megalodon, but, you know, it's a very interesting. I know if you go on YouTube, you could probably find plenty of reasons, some maybe made up, or some supporting reasons on why they would have one. But
I'm surprised you didn't go Bigfoot.
I think Bigfoot's real. There's too many sightings to say it's not.
That would still be a conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy. How's that conspiracy theory? That Bigfoot's real? Like, it's not. You could consider, I guess, an unsolved mystery, but it's at the same time.
True, it could be an unsolved mystery.
I was gonna say, I love watching unsolved mysteries on Netflix. Oh, I love that show. So many good episodes. But no, Bigfoot's real. Everyone knows it. Like, come on. There's so many different versions of it and sightings all over the world. You can't tell me it's not real, or any version, whether it be the Yeti or whatever you want to call it. And not every sighting is real, but there are sightings that you can't really disprove aren't real when people describe what was happening. But
you can disprove anything.
You can try, but I know you can. You can disprove anything because you're Kelsey, and whatever you say goes.
True.
Okay, well, that'll wrap it up for this episode, Kelsey.
We did it.
Yep. Kelsey, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
very happy to have you. I hope you're not too scared to come back and do another one.
No, it was okay.
But if you've listened this long, thank you very much. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on our social medias. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.
Thanks.